This episode of the Grand Rising Show was brought to you by Autochthonous Assembly, where the real work gets done. Autochthonous Assembly is a gathering of the minds that do the work. Now, for many of our first-time subscribers and first-time visitors, you may be wondering who Autochthonous Assembly are. You can find this information about our mission statement and our core values on the website at autochthonousassembly.com/about. We are a nonprofit organization dedicated to raising up Indigenous American voices by using genealogy, also known as family history, or your family tree, which is the study of families and the tracing of their lineages and history. Genealogists use oral interviews, historical records, genetic analysis, and other records to obtain information about a family and to demonstrate kinship and pedigrees of its members. Our core values are the foundation of our company, which is essential to our success and serve as a lens through which we evaluate every business decision. Those core values are, but are not limited to, integrity, which is knowing and doing what is right; respect, which is treating others the way you want to be treated; responsibility, which is embracing opportunities to contribute; and servant leadership, which is serving the common good. Now, at Autochthonous Assembly, we have a couple of goals here. And our first goal and foremost of the reason why we do everything that we do is to ensure that we help you do your genealogy and connect back to your tribe and find out where you are from. Everything that we do from the standpoint of the Grand Rising Show and all the information that's posted on the website is dedicated to that one specific purpose: helping you find your genealogy, find your relatives, find your family so that you will know exactly who you are. And if you choose to, tribe, whether that tribe is a Native American tribe, an American Indian tribe, whether it's allowing you to determine which house in Africa that you belong to, or what clan of Scandinavia or Europe or France that you belong to. Either way, our goal is to do just that: help you find out who you are so you know exactly where to start. We are not here to tell you who you are, and we're not here to tell you who you are not. We're just here to help you discover your beginnings. Another one of our missions is to help you become financially independent so that you can help your generations for the next 7 generations and be able to put a stable foundation for you and your relatives. And if you should choose to use this information that we provide free of charge to help not only yourself, but your community and your tribe, then we will do everything in our power to make sure that gets done as well. And remember, our goal here is to make sure that we help you get exposed to this information to put you in the best situation possible. So now what I'm going to do now is return it back over to the panel to see if there was anything I missed, and I will go ahead and get set up so we can get ready and get digging into this information. Panel, take it away.
Warning, warning, warning. Hard hats, pickaxe, shovels, boots required.
everyone. Hope everyone's doing well this rising.
Peace to the chat. Hope everyone had a very, very blissful night.
Yes. Let's hope so. Look, when I started the show and was running the commercial Jaguar, I was like, I'm in the gym. What you got on the Moors?
Very interesting.
Grand Rising. So, yeah, we actually this information that we're going to be speaking about today is information that Bones and some of the others at A2 have been sitting on just for a little bit because we needed to, I guess for lack of a better term, go over to Europe and have a better understanding, however you want to put it, of what brought these Europeans over to the Americas. What were some other possible reasons, if you will, from overcrowding to coal to, whatever the other resources were. So we thought it was imperative to at least start there and then bring you the information that we had uncovered about the Moors. Again, one perspective, not saying that this is 100% fact and everything else out there is not fact, just some more exposure to help you have a better viewpoint, if you will, another point of reference, if you will, and another opportunity to access some additional resources, look at some things that you might not have thought of looking at before. And of course, as you know, the reason why we do this is to help people do their genealogy. So finding out who's really who will help you find out who you are. So yeah. Bones, you good today?
Yeah. I say, feel energized, ready to go.
Yeah, you've been chomping at the bit to get to this one, just a little bit.
Yeah, part of family history, so yeah.
Yeah, we need to do a community spotlight on YouTube. So we'll talk about that offline.
I'm sick.
Yeah, okay, I'm sick. I want to say grand rising to the new subscribers. I want to say grand rising to the A2 silent majority. Those are the individuals that are out there listening while they're at work, going to work, taking care of their relatives, just out there receiving that information and, just doing something with it behind the scenes. So we definitely appreciate y'all. And just because we don't see you or hear from you, we definitely know that you are there. And grand rising to the best chat ever. Want to say what's up? So let's go ahead and get this roll call started. Grand rising Enrique. Grand rising Golden Moon. Grand rising LJ Free. Grand rising I Am Flying Squirrel. Grand rising Oak Cliff. Grand rising Golden Moon, aka KD. Grand rising Copper Chopper 803. Grand rising Cab. Grand rising Clark Branch. See, I got it right this time. Grand rising Copper Tribe or No Tribe. Let's see. Grand rising Tribab. Grand rising Jaguar. Get that workout in this rising, which is always the best time to do it for some of us. Depends on how you feel. Grand rising Copper Colors Ancestor. And Grand rising Mike Easton. And if I forgot to give you a shout out in Grand rising, just let us know. We'll take care of you. We'll definitely take care of you. So Bones, is there anything in particular you want to cover? Grand rising Joe 47, bro. Is there anything you want to cover, Bones, before we hit this clock and we get started? Is there anything that you want to say or prepare the relatives for this rising?
Basically, this is one of the stories that proves, like we always say, We cannot afford to let people tell us what's what. When we can research when the people that we're speaking about are still living, and you can get the history from them. So it goes back to what we say, question everything. Leave no stone unturned. And the shocking point, which you've about to learn about the Moors, some people might know, and this might be new to people, but they're not who you think they are.
Grand Rising, David Corey. How did I not see your name? They even shot you out in the chat. Anyway, my bad, David. It's all good. Yeah, they're not who we think they're, but I mean, let's cut to the chase. Isn't that been the case pretty much for everything that we've been exposing and everything that the chat's been exposing, and then all the information that we've been receiving from everybody? I mean, no one is really who we thought they are or were.
Got that right. Whole lot of layered stories. A story on top of a story on top of another story.
And here's something I was thinking about. How is it that when you look up any of the other people by titles and they're supposed to be melanated, they're recessive? But when you look up Moors, 90% of the images are melanated.
Because they're trying to fool you to tell you Moors are Africans, when the majority of Moors come from the Iberian Peninsula and the Ottoman Empire.
So we covered the Ottoman Empire, which is the reason why we covered the Ottoman Empire first. And the Moors come from the Ottoman Empire, and they're from the Iberian Peninsula, which is where Spain was originally. The name of Spain, that's where the name got changed to by Queen Isabella and King Ferdinand in 1502. So before it was Spain, the location was Hispaniola, which is nothing more than a Roman word for Iberian Peninsula. So the
Iberians ruled. Yeah, we got to remember the Iberians ruled what we call today Spain. And what they call North Africa. They come from the areas of Spain, North Africa. And be prepared to find out where your blonde hair, blue eyes come from. Fair warning. Fair warning. Fair warning.
Yeah, so let's go ahead and punch this clock so the people with the ratchets can go ahead and issue out the equipment for everybody, so we can go ahead and get this road on the show. Stand by. Hopefully everybody got your gear on, got your hard hats on, shin guards, Grand Rising, Macadon 1. Glad you made it, relative. Thanks for catching the cab this rising, excuse me. I'm gonna get it right one day. Mike Easton says the Iberians speak French, Arabic, Spanish, and Italian.
Yes, they do.
Kappa Choppa said, did you just say road on the show? Yes, I did. Yeah, I already see, I'm already pre-concussed, so you just got to bear with me. Alright, so when we say Iberian Peninsula, we're talking about the continent or the area now known as Spain. And the reason why we're doing this is because in order for us to really break these spells and break this mindset, we really need to call these places like they are. So, you may hear to us interchange the phrases of France and Gaul, because that's all the French were Gauls. That's where you get Portugal from. So basically the port of France, the port of Gaul. Those are your French. So We're here
Gullah.
to.
Just remember that word, Gullah. It's gonna come back in later on. Gauls, Gullah.
So yeah, we just we here to do our part. We're here to grow and learn together. And again, as always, if any information that we put out is not accurate, or you find something that contradicts and you have the sources and information, please send that information to talktothisassembly@gmail.com, or you can go on our forum at talktothisassembly.com/forum. So just know we're here to get it right. It's not about being right. So that being said, Bones, where do we start? Do we start with the Wiki Moors, or do we start with the Encyclopedia Britannica Moors, or do we start somewhere else? You let me know. You driving this ship.
Oh, we can start with the wiki. We can start with the wiki Moors. The Britannica is just to back up the information from our wiki along with the sources, because the wiki will be the article, and the encyclopedia and the reference books from that side of the world is the sources.
Yes, and we really do encourage y'all to, again, this is information. Understand that there are sources at the bottom of these pages. Look at the sources. Go do the research. We're not saying this information is 100% correct, because we know there's three sides to every story. So we're trying to give you we're trying to give you the version, if you will, of the perspective. I think that's the better. I like that better. The perspective from the American Indians' viewpoint, because we already got the perspective from the European colonizer, recessive, whatever title you want to put on these individuals that that are lording this information over us and trying to get us to change our identity. So just know that there is a speck of truth in every lie, and we're just here to, as they say, get the babies out the water. So I'm gonna go ahead and put the link to Wikimoors in here. All that is I'm just putting the link to Wikipedia, and it's in the chat. So it's about that time. So I'm gonna go ahead and start reading. So let's go. So I'm reading from the Wikipedia article on the website, and it reads: the term Moors refers primarily to the Muslims inhabitants of Maghreb, the Iberian Peninsula, Sicily, and Malta during the Middle Ages.
Before you go further to give them a location, Maghreb is the name at the time of what they were calling North Africa.
Say that again.
Maghreb is the name of what they are referring to as North Africa at this time. Maghreb.
So at this time, it's not even called Africa, which we're gonna touch on that too. So the Iberian Peninsula is what is now known as Spain, and you know what Sicily is, right? That's in Italy, and then there's Malta. And just to give you a better perspective, I'll tell you where Malta is. I'll put it in the chat as well. Okay, so Malta is a southern European island country consisting of an archipelago in the Mediterranean Sea, south of Italy. Okay? So it's basically an island country that's an archipelago that's south of Italy. So it would be south of Sicily as well. So that's Malta. So this is where your Moors inhabited at this time during the Middle Ages. And just so we know what we're referring to in the form of the Middle Ages, let's go ahead and touch that. so we can make sure everyone's on the same accord. In the history of Europe, the Middle Ages or medieval period lasted from the 5th to the 15th century. It began with the fall of the Western Roman Empire. Remember, there were two empires in Rome, a Western and an Eastern. So the beginning of the Middle Ages began with the fall of the Western Roman Empire and merged into the Renaissance and the Age of Discovery. So the Middle Ages is the middle period of the three traditional divisions of Western history: classical antiquity, the medieval period, and the modern period. Okay? So when they say Middle Ages, they're talking from the 5th to the 15th century. All right? So let's continue. The Moors initially were the indigenous Maghrebine Berbers. The name was also applied to Arabs. Stop. Y'all cutting up already. Somebody said McRib.
And they get fries and a drink with that Macadon one.
I can't. So initially they were the indigenous Maghrebine Berbers. So keep that in mind. Moors are not a distinct or self-defined people. And the 1911 Encyclopedia Britannica observed that the term Moors has no real ethnological value. Wait a minute.
One more time, please.
Hold on. Read this again. It says the Moors are not a distinct or self-defined people. And the 1911 Encyclopedia Britannica observed that the term Moors has no real ethnological value. Now the source is the 1911 Encyclopedia Britannica. So if anybody wants to disagree with that and they have proof that there are Moorish people that are actually self-defined and they are a real ethnological people, then this should be easy to prove it. Mike Easton says the Arab culture was stolen as well. Well, I mean, all the cultures were stolen. That's what we're finding out, or heavily borrowed. We'll just leave it at that.
Yeah.
So it says the term Moors has no real ethnological value. So moving on, it says Europeans of the Middle Ages and the early modern period variously applied the name to Arabs, North Berbers, and Muslim Europeans. We gonna need some new brakes on the cab before we
brake change later.
Yeah, we gonna need some new brakes on the cab before the week is over, because I feel we gonna be stopping or not. So alright. Man, we ain't even got to the third paragraph. There's already haymakers coming in.
Blowing it up.
Again, this is...
I'm like David Corey, but they quit to tell you you're a Moor because of your skin color when it has nothing to do with that. It has to do with a location area, the term Moor.
It's interesting. The term Moor has more, pun intended, to do with location than Romans do. See, you see the...
Mm-hmm.
See the craziness in that? See the electo difficilio in that? The term Moor has more to do with location than Romans do. Romans are a family, or if Romans is an ideology that a family took on, that has nothing to do with a location. Moor is basically a location that has absolutely nothing to do with the people. That's crazy.
Just another description, and it had nothing to do with skin color.
Free dropping bombs already. Stop it, Free.
They just told you it was the name of the original people of that area is what they called them. Later on applied to Arabs, then later on applied to European Muslims. No time you heard nothing about no African. Oh, my bad. The term didn't exist at the time.
We'll cover that shortly. So that term was applied to North Africans, Arabs, North African Berber, Arabs, and Muslim Europeans. Okay, I'm gonna continue to read. The term also has been used in Europe in a broader, somewhat derogatory sense to refer to Muslims in general. So this word has been used the same way the N-word has been used in the Americas concerning a certain swarthy, dub people who are falsely identified as African American, which should have been called either Libyan American or Ethiopian American, because Africa was not supposed to be the name of that whole continent. And we'll see. We'll give you the source of that shortly. It says, especially those of Arab or Berber descent, whether living in Spain, which is the Iberian Peninsula, or North Africa, which is basically what was originally called, if you look up here, Maghreb. Remember, North Africa was originally Maghreb. So now they're starting to put the words Spain and North Africa down here.
You pronounce that like somebody been practicing their Arabic.
Maybe. Macadon One put a link in the chat, so let me go ahead and click on that and bring that up. Ooh, that's a good picture. Yeah,
it's the map of the Iberian map.
I gotta share this.
If you can get the full one, you'll see the one where it shows the original name of North Africa, where it has Maghreb written on it.
All right, I'm gonna share this with y'all. Boop, 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 boop. And put the link in the chat. Well, it's already in the chat. Duh. So y'all see that? So this is Titus Africa Tubula, and this is a map of the continent known as Africa. Now, I'm going to increase this, or what they call a zoom in. There's only one spot called Africa.
Known as Africa.
There's only one spot called Africa. I'm just saying. Can we get a bomb drop for Macadon One? Bomb drop for Macadon One. Bomb drop on aisle 2. Bomb drop on aisle 2. Thank you, Macadon One. Appreciate you. Joe 47 says he got that map. Yeah, it says a lot. So, should we be calling that continent Africa if we really want to get down to the facts and the truth of things? I'm just saying. Personally, I don't feel we should, because it was never intended to be called Africa. Only the northern part was supposed to be called Africa. Grand Rising, J. Susquehanna.
Peace, peace.
LJ Free said, so who's a real African again? We gonna get to that. This is trying to, there we go. Yeah, I had to go back to the slideshow. So EJ Caperton, Grand Rise EJ Caperton, he says ain't nothing but a hop, skip, and a jump. Well, he said a hop and a skip.
9 miles. It's 9 miles between the so-called place you call Spain and the so-called place you call Africa.
And I have
9 miles apart.
Yeah, one of my one of my business partners who actually owns an accounting firm told me she actually went to Spain and crossed the land bridge that takes you into Africa. She said that was the only time that she ever been in Africa. So there is a land bridge that takes you from Spain to Africa, and she's crossed it.
Yes, there is.
So it's not as far from Spain or the Iberian Peninsula as some people would like for you to think.
Think about it. It's about the same distance from Miami to Key West.
Joe 47 says jogging distance. Yeah, 9 miles. Joe, yeah. Grand Rising Patrick.
Don't we got a 7-mile bridge? Don't we have a 7-mile bridge that take you to Key West?
Yep.
So it doesn't seem impossible now, does it?
Exactly, Copper Color Ancestor. She says, this is why it's imperative we research these titles they put on our people, African Americans, isn't it? No, African Americans should have never been it. Because even if you look at the Pan-African or out of Africa theory, which is a theory, they don't target North Africa, which is the Maghreb. They're talking about East Africa, which wouldn't have been East Africa, which would have been called Ethiopia. So why are we not called Ethiopian Americans?
And like LJ Free put in the chat earlier, even on the census, people that come from North Africa are classified as white. But we're going to dig into that too.
So for all those that disagree and have some information that is counter to, please bring your sources. You know, again, we want to get this right. This is not about being right. So where was I? So it says the term has also been used in Europe in a broader, somewhat derogatory sense to refer to Muslims in general, especially those of Arab or Berber descent, whether living in Spain or North Africa. So like I said, Spain is Iberian Peninsula and North Africa is Maghreb. During the colonial era, the Portuguese, Port of Gaul, French, introduced the names Ceylon Moors and Indian Moors in South Asia and Sri Lanka. And the Bengali Muslims were also called Moors in the Philippines. The long-standing Muslims community, which predates the arrival of Spanish, now self-identifies as the Moro people.
Hold on, what was that again? They predated who? The Spanish. In the area?
They predated the Spanish.
Oh, okay. Meaning they was there before Spanish. Oh, all right, just making sure.
Yeah, because Spain didn't come into existence until 1502. It was originally Hispaniola, which was originally Iberian Peninsula, because that is a Roman, aka Latin term for Iberian Peninsula. Hispaniola. Way to get Spain. That's all.
Now, as you can see, all these people that's in the same religious fraction, if we use that word, are being identified by this term. Keep this in mind. By how they dress, how they look, and their customs is how they get in this title. Remember this.
And Mike Easton says, remember, African American came from Jesse Jackson in 1988 and his small group of people
And Jesse Jackson is you said Jesse Jackson is Cherokee? And I can see how that's possible. I mean, majority of the American Indians on the eastern seaboard could be considered Cherokee. They were taking Lottie Dottie and everybody. So they were referring to all of these individuals as Moors. And these names came from the Portuguese. The Portuguese people named these people. These people did not name themselves. Excuse me. So it says the Portuguese introduced the names. Ceylon Moors and Indian Moors in South Asia and Sri Lanka, and the Bengali Muslims were also called Moors. In the Philippines, a long-standing Muslim community which predates the arrival of the Spanish, now self-identifies as the Moro people. They identify as the Moro people, right? It's an axiom introduced by Spanish colonizers due to their Muslim faith. So the only reason these individuals identify themselves as Moro people because the Spanish colonizers introduced these people as that, and they introduced them to this faith. So this has had to be after 1500s. So what were they called before then? See, this is where the rubber meets the road. What were these people called before colonizers started naming them? That's the terminologies we should be looking at. That's the terminologies that we should be focusing on because that's going to help us find out who we are and find out who everybody else is. Stop looking at what the colonizer named it. So my question is, if we're really for, and I'm using air quotes, ending white superiority and all this other mess, why are we using the names that they gave these places? Why don't we use original names or go back before they colonized these places? Why not use those names? And if that's the case, then why are we still using Africa? I'm just saying as a quote unquote conscious community. You conscious and aware, but you're still using the term that was given by colonizers. That doesn't make any sense to me.
Helping them drop a layer on top of a layer on top of a layer. Helping them do it.
So how are you going to be aware and conscious when you're using the term that the colonizer gave you? And I mean, personally, I don't care what your belief is from the standpoint of how we got here, but if you claim to be conscious and aware, why would you use the colonizer's name? I'm just saying. So let's continue.
Something to think about, relatives. Something to think about, relatives.
It said in 711, troops mostly formed by Moors from the northern Africa led the Umayyad conquest in Hispania. The Iberian Peninsula then came to be known as Classical Arabic as Al-Andalus, which at its peak included most of Septimania and modern-day Spain and Portugal. They didn't change the name 3 times. Y'all see that?
Yep.
In 711, troops mostly formed by the Moors from the northern Africa or Maghreb led the Umayyad conquest of Hispania, which is nothing more than Iberian Peninsula, which is what it reads. Then came to be known in Classical Arabic as Al-Andalus, which is, they changed it from the Iberian Peninsula to Al-Andalus. So before it was Hispania, it was Al-Andalus. And that included most of Septimania and the modern day Spain and Portugal. So how many names are we going to have to go through before we get to the truth? Grand Rising Alboria, Grand Rising Lady J. Glad you caught the cab this rising.
Hope you bought a scraper. A lot to scrape away.
Tighten up them hard hats. So, let's look at this. 827. I just slapped the one on front of it. Indoctrination, I tell you. 827. The Moors occupied Mazara on Sicily, developing it as a port. They eventually went on to consolidate the rest of the island. Differences in religion and culture led to centuries-long conflict with the Christian kingdoms of Europe. which tried to reclaim control of Muslim areas. This conflict was referred to as the Reconquista. The Reconquista. In 1224, the Muslims were expelled from Sicily to the settlement of Lucera, which was destroyed by European Christians in 1300. So, basically from 1827 to 1224, the Moors, or the Maghrebians, were in Sicily. In Mazda. They were there a long time. David Corey says, we need the original names of the land. Research. Exactly, David, because that's the only way. Well, I'm not going to say it's the only way because that's not a true statement. That's one of the best ways for us to find out who we are and who everybody else is, so we will know where to start. And again, if there's a different narrative or there's a different approach, I'm all for it. Just bring your sources. So moving on. The fall of Granada in 1492. Stop. Rewind. The fall of Granada in 1492 marked the end of Muslim rule in Iberia, although a Muslim minority persisted until their expulsion. In 1492 marked the end of the Muslim rule in Iberia, although the Muslim minority persisted until their expulsion in 1609. So they weren't exposed, they were not exposed. They were not removed until 1609, but it stopped in 1492. So keep that in mind, because 1492 is when they say Christopher Columbus is supposed to sail over into the Caribbean, right? But we have no supporting evidence from the European side that supports that. There is no documentation, there is nothing from their side saying that Christopher Columbus was sent on an expedition by Spain. Why? Spain didn't exist then. Why? Because it was called Hispaniola. Why? Because the Romans named it that because it was originally named the Iberian Peninsula. And they say Christopher Columbus came from where? Italy. Italy was under French rule. Italy was under French rule at that time. France did not lose control of Italy until 1525. Look it up. So how could Christopher Columbus come to the Caribbean under the Spanish flag when Spain had not been established yet? Spain got established in 1502. Look it up. So this time it's still
Spanish records.
Say again, Bones.
Yeah, this is in the Spanish records that they did not get it together until 1502. The marriage was in 1492, but they didn't get it together to 1502. And even in 1502, they still had Iberians living in so-called Spain till 1609. Matter of fact, to this day, Morocco is still an Islamic state.
So can somebody please tell me how we are still talking this Christopher Columbus nonsense when the Spanish records dictate that they did not send him over there? So if the Spanish records dictate that they didn't send him over there, who told us that he came from Spain? Who told us that he was flying up under the Spanish flag? Who told us that? And why did they tell us? No sellout says, but Spanny. Grand Rise, no sellout. Come on, man. Let's be real. Let's look at this from a realistic standpoint. Let's get our heads out of the clouds about what we want things to be and what we've been indoctrinated with. Let's really look at this. If we're gonna do it, let's do it right or not at all. I'm just saying. LJ Free says, don't play into the lies of the mental construct. When you know better, you're supposed to do better. Exactly. Right, the timeline is important, but that's the question is, why is a timeline important? Because if you know where and when, you know who. Joe 47 says, I should have been your history teacher. We both would have got kicked out. But I appreciate that. So let's look at the etymology. Etymology. It says further information, Mori means people, Mauretania. Okay, so it says during the classical period, the Romans interacted with the later conquered parts of Mauretania, a state that covered modern northern Morocco, western Algeria, and the Spanish cities, Ceuta and Melilla. Okay. The Berber tribes of the region were noted in the classical as Moor-ish, which was consequently rendered as Moors in English and in related variations in other European language. Moor-ish.
So what's the original name? What's the original name again?
Moor-ish.
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 So Moor is a perversion of the word because when they translated it, that was the closest that they can get to it. That's why if you go over there and you say Moor, them people don't know what in the world you talking about. Just take a trip.
That's another question. When someone says that we're Moors, and again, I'm not saying this information is 100%. What I am saying is when people make claims, they need to bring proof. David Corey, why you starting something, bro? We gonna hit him up with that. My situation is whenever people start making claims, the first question you should ask them, if people are banging on this Moor stuff, and I'm not saying there aren't Moors or what have you. What I'm saying is, the number one question I would ask is, like, have you been over there? Have you talked to the people? Do you have any recordings? Do you have any documentations? Those are simple questions. But it seems like no one ever asks those questions. We just accept stuff on face value. Then we have all these movements. And people just making claims, and then people building histories and stories and YouTube channels off of things that no one has verified. I'm not saying it's not correct. I'm just saying no one has verified it to be correct. That's all. So the word Moor is nothing more than a transliteration of Mori. That's where that word comes from.
Yep, it's in the Arabic language.
David Corey says Moors are whites out of North Africa. Shh, David. Shh.
We didn't get there yet. Hold on.
Always trying to be ahead of the class. So then it goes on to read. It says it is recorded as the native name by Strabo in the early 1st century. This appellation was also adapted in Latin, whereas the Greek name for the tribe was Maurus, ancient Greek. The Moors were also mentioned by Tacitus as having revolted against the Roman Empire in 24 AD. So it's interesting because they'll tell you where it comes from, but they'll still use the term Moors. So my question to y'all is: should we even be using the word Moors? Because it's not even a real word. It's a made up word. The original word is Mauri, Mauri. So we shouldn't even be using Moors. Just saying. During the Latin Middle Ages, Mahdi was used to refer to Berbers and Arabs in the coastal regions of Northwest Africa, aka Maghreb. We should not be using the word Africa. Why? The colonizers invented that word. And if we're really trying to get rid of quote unquote white supremacy, why are we using their words when we know the names of when we know the original names? People want to go back to their original names, but they don't go back to their original names. Does that make sense? You want to still want to go back to the names of the colonizer gave it, but you don't want to go back to the names of the people that you claim to be from gave you. Okay. That's no different than me being Issa, but I'm claiming Sioux. The French called us Sioux. We not Sioux. I don't speak French. I'm Issa. So I don't call my tribe Sioux. Even Catawba Sapani is a derivation. So go back to the original titles that tell you where you come from. I'm not gonna be walking around here using some French word to represent my tribe when that's not what my tribe called themselves. Does that make sense? It goes on to read, he described Moors as one of the 5 main population groups on the continent alongside Egyptians. And it says Abyssinians, Abasians, Arabians, and Kafri, which are your Cafates. In medieval Romance languages, variations of the Latin word for Moors, for instance, Italian and Spanish moro, French mare, Portuguese, which are nothing more than French, that speak Latin, moro, Romanian, mar, develop different applications and connotations. Let me stop for a second. Oak Cliff says Maury Povich is famous for telling women who is not the father. I like that one. Maury Povich. Povich. That's German, isn't it? Povich. It's like Gaelic. Y'all are dropping bombs in this chat. That's what's up. Hold on. Alright. Copper Color Sister, we'll take a look at that link in a second. Boy says, Maury is so fake. I went to a live show. It's all fake. Acting so fake. I mean, it's entertainment. It's to distract you from your problems. Exactly. Tip be on it. Copper Color Sister be on it. So, the Romance languages have variations of the Latin word for Moors, which the original word was Maudi. But then there's Romance languages that have different derivations of that word. So the Italians have their word, which is moro, which is basically Moor. French have more. Portuguese have muro, and the Romanians have more. So why are people calling themselves something that the quote-unquote colonizers or the white supremacists call them? Oh, wait. Why would you do that? LJ Free says, Maury, Moore. Yep. There's Maury Povich with those tests. Show them how to use DNA another way. Who's the pappy? David Corey says, y'all don't know the TV is a lie box. That's what my great granny called it. Tell lies visually. Oh, I'm sorry. Moving on. So they develop different applications and connotations. So they develop different applications and connotations for their word. They chose to name people Moors. They chose to call them that based off of what they saw and what they understood in the transliteration of what a Moor was to them. So people are calling themselves something based off of what they call a white supremacist, or what they call whatever you want to call these people, recessive colonizers, whatever term you call them, you want to use the words that they gave you to use, but then you get upset with people when they call themselves something like African American. How's that any different? I'm just saying. You mad because people call themselves African American, but you calling yourself something that the French the Italians, the Romanians call you. What's the difference? Same people, different name. The term initially denoted a specific Berber people in western Libya, but the name acquired more general meaning during the medieval period associated with Muslims. Similar to associations with Saracens during the context of the Crusades and the Reconquista, the terms Moors included the derogatory suggestions of infidels. Y'all have heard the term infidels, right? What is an infidel? Infidel, a person who does not believe in religion or who adheres to a religion other than one's own.
Meaning, if you come from an area where everybody is dominantly Christian and you follow another faith, by definition, you're considered an infidel.
So basically, you a bandwagon religion jumper.
Yeah, don't even got to be bandwagon. It's that, let's say if your mom and dad is Christian and you decide to be Jewish, by definition, they would consider you an infidel. You're not following the religion of the family.
I like my definition better, Bones. Anyway, that's fine. But it's not correct, so that's fine. We'll use yours. Apart from these historic associations in context, Moor and Moorish designated a specific ethnic group speaking Hassaniya Arabic. It says, apart from these historic associations in context, Moor and Moorish designate a specific ethnic group speaking Hassaniya Arabic. They inhabit Mauretania and parts of Algeria, Western Sahara, Tunisia, Morocco, Niger, and Mali. In Nigeria and Mali, these people are also known as the Azagwa Arabs, after Azagwa region of the Sahara. Again, they're known by these names by who? Who named them? Grand Rising, Shiva Primal, Prince William County represent. Who named these people? They didn't call themselves this. So we need to stop this madness. I'm gonna call him Clay. The authoritative dictionary of the Spanish languages does not list any derogatory meaning for the word moro, a term generally referring to people of Maghrebian origin in particular or Muslims in general. And this is coming from a Spanish-speaking dictionary. And it's an authoritative dictionary of the Spanish language.
That's why sources matter so much. That's why your source counts. Coming directly from your dictionary.
So here you go. It's like, okay, so we're gonna call them Moors because that's what they call themselves. That's not true. They never called themselves Moors. And even the derogatory term. The authoritative dictionary of the Spanish language does not list any derogatory meaning for the word moro, a term generally referring to people of Maghrebian origin in particular or Muslims in general. So if that's the case, how are you using the term Moor? How? How they say houseway?
Yep, houseway.
How? Show me how that's possible. Who told you that that was the term that you're supposed to use? Where did you get that from? Some authors have pointed out that in modern colloquial Spanish, use of the term moro is derogatory to Moroccans in particular, the Muslims in general. The Philippines, a former Spanish colony, many modern Filipinos call the large local Muslim minority concentrated in Mindanao Mindanao, and other southern islands, moros. The word is a catch-all term, as moro may come from several distinct ethno-linguistic groups such as Mauretania, the Mauretania people. The term was introduced by Spanish colonizers. Again, it's being introduced. What does introduction mean? When you introduce something, what does that mean? You bring it into existence, right? You're declaring or proclaiming something to be a thing. So the term was introduced by Spanish colonizers who didn't exist until the 1502. So who are they? No disrespect intended, but who are they? They're nothing more than your Iberians.
Spanish-speaking Iberians and Spanish-speaking Franks and Gauls. That's all they are. So what's a Spaniard again?
A Gaul. That speaks Spanish. Not to be confused with Gaul. And that's for all my Georgian brothers and sisters. So come on, man. Stop with the games. You're going to introduce a term and everybody just going to rock with it. You're going to go back to the term Moor. Stay there, knowing good and well that's not what they were called. Knowing good and well that's not what they call themselves, but that's where you decide to say, really? Really? This what we doing? Come on, man. We got to do better. So then it goes on to read, the term was introduced by, like I said, by Spanish colonizers and has since been appropriated by the Filipino Muslims as an idonym, with many self-identifying as members of Bangsa Moro Nation. What's an idonym?
It's an external name for a geographical place.
An external name. What the external? Outside of?
Outside name.
It's an
meaning
outside
the people
name.
of the land. The people of the land did not identify under that term. Outsiders identified them under that as that term.
Just right, El Boreas. It's just like Black, Negro, and African American. So here's my thing. And you can feel how you want to feel about this, but until we know our original names and what our people call us, who are we to bang on somebody for calling themselves something else? You got people being called African Americans, Black over here. You got people being called Moors and Morenos over there. No one's calling themselves by what they're supposed to be called on this continent anyway. So how is it that we all are using the wrong terms to identify ourselves, but then we're going to bang on each other for using the wrong terms when no one apparently is using the right terms?
And you wonder why ain't no changes.
It doesn't make any sense. So how about we do this? How about everybody find out what your original people were called, start there, and then start addressing everything else? How about we do that? Until you know what your original people were called, be quiet. Go do your work. Go study about who you are and where you come from. Bring some sources. Bring some facts. That goes for everybody across the board. Everybody.
Bingo.
This is a blanket statement. This is not targeting anybody specific. But if you hit, I'm sorry. Not sorry. Find out who you are. Find out who your people are. Find out what you were called. The right name by your people, not what somebody called you. Not some synonym or some existential term that has absolutely nothing to do with you. I'm gonna call you this because you look like this, so you're gonna rock with it. You develop a whole culture around that. Is that crazy or what? I don't know. Maybe that's just me. I'm sorry. Back to our regular schedule.
But that's why. But then, if you look at it, that's why you have no standing in law. Show me where, any place legally in law, any one of these terms has any rights or even identified as people. They're not.
And that goes for anybody. Again, we're not taking shots at a specific group. I'm taking shots. I'm using I'm using a 50 cal. I'm just throwing rounds. if you identify and you get hit, well, I'm sorry. Not sorry. I'm just saying. So this is for everybody that's going out there misidentifying themselves on purpose or by accident. We have access to too much information to be letting somebody call us something, anything. I don't care what you identify as. At least use the right term. Is that too hard? Am I asking too much? Am I asking too much? I'm not asking too much.
Nope.
Chat, y'all think I'm asking too much?
So look at the Moor Sundry Act. By saying Moor Sundry Act, you're going to run to an act that's written in a derogatory term, and you think it's supposed to protect you? How?
I'm just saying, so.
There is no Moorish Empire. It's the Ottoman Empire.
Say it again.
So there is no Moorish Empire. It's the Ottoman Empire. So if you need a treaty to be protected, if it don't say Ottoman on it, you wasting your time. How you gonna use an act that was created from a created word that was created from somebody else that was created? That don't make no sense.
So I say we should all start using the oldest words possible for these places and for the people. Because what that does is that keeps everything in proper perspective. And that's all we're trying to do. Keep things in its proper perspective. So I'm not using the term Africa to describe that continent. And I'm about to tell you why. And I'm about to show you. Hold on. Give me 1 minute, please. You know, proof ain't a problem where we come from over here.
And we got to learn to go to the source with our questions. Why are we in America listening to Germans and other Europeans tell you the history of these people from this area, when you can just go to the people of the area and study their history, read their writings? That's why we have a brain, to reason and think for ourselves. Stop letting people tell you things and you run with it because it sounds good, because it triggers an emotion in you. That's a big no-no.
They've been studying us for a long time. They know we are emotional people. Just
Fact,
right,
Jay, Moor-ish. You're something like the Moors. And why did a lot of our ancestors get identified? It was the way that they dressed. When a lot of these Spaniards and French came over, they seen how our ancestors, a lot of them wore turbans. A lot of them were covered from head to toe. So the closest thing they can identify them to was Moors. That's why they called some of them that.
I mean, and for the Southeast Indians, correct me if I'm wrong, we would more, pun intended, we are more like, what's the term I'm looking for? We align more with the turban than we do with the feather, because the turban had a feather on it.
Yes.
Feathers are your Plains Indians identifying markers. We deal more with turbans. We always had headgear. We kept our heads covered.
From head to toe. Do the research.
So these shots are for anybody that's in the way. And I don't mean like in the way. I mean in the way of not knowing what you're talking about. If you identify as a Southeastern Indian, you're probably more relatable to an Indian that wore a turban. And when I say Indian, I'm talking about American Indian that wore a turban than a feather. The turban had a feather on it. Which one is bigger, the turban or the feather? If you see somebody with a turban on, what you gonna see first, the turban or the feather? I'll wait. Grand Rising, Pamela Hall.
Yeah, and David Corey, it goes a little bit deeper too. Beyond just the headdress. When the Spanish came into Spain, they seen a lot of construction, a lot of buildings, and the closest thing they were able to relate it to was the mosque from that part. That's how we got this title. That's how we got this name. If you come across a group of people you never seen before, and the only thing you know is they're similar, they dress like, they talk like, they move like people that you done met before. That's how you identify them, as the people you already met.
Case in point, we use descriptive terms all the time, right? If you try to describe somebody, they go, well, what do they look like? Or they go, well, such and so and so. I'm like, I don't know what you're talking about. You know that person that looks like so and so. Oh, okay. That's not that person, but they look like that person. So now that person is able to identify them, or they say they sound like somebody. You know, you ever heard that podcast show that with that one guy? No, who are they? You know the guy that sounds like Eddie Murphy. Oh yeah, I know who that is. They're not saying that the person is Eddie Murphy. They say the person sounds like Eddie Murphy. So we all use descriptive terms. So why do we want to act like that doesn't apply to other cultures? They did the same thing. They was like, if they're describing something that they hadn't seen before, so the only thing they could do was make a comparison from what they had seen before. Why is that so hard? If you look
Let go of the emotional romance story. Let go of these emotional romance stories that take you away from your true identity.
Grand Rising Michael Brown Harris. It's like we isolate things and we want to separate them to create this narrative so we can be right. I know a lot of right people that are broke. I know a lot of right people that are in jail. I know a lot of right people that are on the wrong side. What's being right? What has being right done for you lately? I would prefer to get it right than be right. That's just me. That's right, Joe.
Joe 47. The Mayans had head scars, and they resembled the head scars from over on that side.
So let's read this. Let's read this piece of information coming from, what's the source here? The www.worldatlas.com. What was the original name of Africa? Okay, I put the link in the chat. It says Africa is the world's largest and most populated continent after Asia. According to statistics released back in 2016, it covers an area of about 11.7 million square miles. It is a home of about 1.2 billion people. This number accounts for 16% of the world's population. 16%, that's a large number, right? The Suez Canal, Red Sea, Mediterranean Sea, Indian Ocean, and the Atlantic Ocean surround Africa, which is made up of 54 widely recognized states, with most of these states being located in the northern hemisphere side and the rest in the southern hemisphere side. So they talk about most of it resides above the equator. As seen above, we know so much about Africa, but what is the original name of Africa? This question, which would undoubtedly make many break sweat, and as they say, what is in the name? According to history, Africa is not Africa's real name. The name Africa is mentioned to have been first used by Romans. Okay, stop.
Bring it on back.
Stop, David. Be nice. So, Africans is a term that was brought on by Romans. Why are people using the name given to them by Romans when they claim that Romans are the same people that are colonizers? Why would you take on the colonizer's name that they gave you? They gave you their name. You had another name, but you're gonna take on that name. Okay. Makes a lot of sense to me. So according to history, Africa is not Africa's real name. The name Africa is mentioned to have been first used by the Romans to refer to Carthaginian Empire, which was in present-day Tunisia. Carthaginian Empire. The Carthaginian Empire. So they was talking about a specific empire, which was in present-day Tunisia. So they weren't talking about the whole continent. They were talking about a specific empire in a specific place on this whole continent. After the Romans conquered the Carthaginian Empire, they acquired administrative control over North Africa. It's interesting that they use that word administrative control. Why would they say they administrative control? Because what they were responsible for administering: new names, new titles, new religions,
splitting up the land and handing it out to different family members.
Which basically means they would name the place.
Bingo.
So for all the scholars out there, why are you still using the name of the Roman Empire to represent a place that your people never called it? Wouldn't it make more sense? And again, it's just me. Wouldn't it make more sense to go back as far back and use the original name as possible? And then just educate people to catch them up on why you use that name?
Makes sense to me.
Because to me, and this is my perspective, mine and mine alone, if you're claiming that you are not supportive of quote unquote white supremacy, but you're using the terminology that the white supremacists use in the name that they gave you, aren't you neglecting your ancestors by not using the name that they gave them?
Yes, you are.
Meaning, if my mother calls me Thomas, right? Well, she called me by my nickname, but I ain't telling y'all that. And then I'm claiming that I'm from my mama. I'm claiming I'm from my peoples. My mother calls me by my name. I have a family name. Somebody comes in and takes that name away from me, but I still know that name. And then I start identifying as a name that the government gave me. But then I'm claiming white supremacy and claiming that I'm not down for that, but I refuse to use the name that my mama gave me. So who am I disrespecting? The government or my mother? I'll wait. You're not going to use the name your mama gave you, but you're going to use the name that the conqueror gave you. When there are no consequences for you using the name that your mama gave you. We do have the right to self-identify now, don't we?
Yes, you do.
Okay, we had that right since when? 1970, right? 1970.
Yep, 70.
70 was the first census that allowed us to self-identify. Before then, you didn't have the right to self-identify on the census. So all of us, everybody, la-di-da-di, everybody, I'm talking about the Aboriginal community, the American Indian community, the Native American community, the whatever community, any community, you're going to use the name that the colonizer gave you, and you're going to ride on that. That's the name you're going to ride on. And then you're going to bash each other because everybody using the wrong name, but you using the wrong name too. That's some of the dumbest mess I ever heard.
Fighting each other over pet names. Ain't that sad?
That your master gave you. Man, go sit down somewhere. Everybody need to be in timeout.
Fighting one form of indoctrination. Fighting one form of indoctrination for another form of indoctrination. Come on, we got to do better.
Everybody in timeout. I got the key. I'm in there with y'all. Joe 47 says, call me Lassie Rough. Come on, man. We got to do better than this, man. This is crazy. So, then it goes on to read that the Carthaginian Empire, once they gained administrative control over North Africa, and this led to the division of North Africa by the Romans. Remember, the Romans are not a place. They are a family.
Yep.
So this was the eastern Eastern. They go 757 and making the accent mix coming out. It was the Eastern Roman Empire, to be more specific, the Eastern Holy Roman Empire that renamed Maghreb to North Africa. And then they only changed one area of that continent to name it North Africa. So let's go on and read. It says, into two Africa Proconsulates, which was in present-day northern Tunisia, and Africa Nova, which consisted of Algeria. Stop.
Oh no, Enrique. The Germans didn't name it Maghreb. That's the name. That's the original name that the people called it by. Africa is what the Germans renamed it. African, Africa.
So let me get this right. According to this source, there are many sources, so I'm just telling you. According to this source, which may have some truth to it, it may not. Do your research. But this is what we're gonna use today. According to this source right here, the Romans broke up these two areas in the continent erroneously called Africa into two places. They renamed them. Why? They had administrative control over this place, so they could name it whatever they want. Now let me ask you this question. Is anybody gonna get in trouble if they call Africa something else today? Is there like a Roman police that's gonna bash you upside your head or shoot you in your eye because you call it something else? I'll wait.
Nope.
Okay, so you mean that the Illuminati not gonna come after you for calling something other than Africa?
Nope.
Okay, just checking. So, there were two areas that was referred to Africa. Northern Tunisia, which was called Northern Africa, and then Africa Nova, which consists of Algeria. That's it. Those are the only two areas that was called Africa. So unless you're from those areas and you are Roman or German, you have no business calling that continent Africa. None. Because that's not your people. So let's continue to read, shall we? One theory, again, theory means it's not a proven fact, suggests that the name Africa is derived from the name of a famous European traveler named Leo Africanus. The Romans wanted to destroy Africans' connection to their culture and traditions, and to change the name of their land was one of the ways. So let me stop right here.
What was that again? What?
The Romans wanted to destroy Africans' connection to their culture and traditions and change the name of their land was one of the ways. But here's the part that we need to clarify. It wasn't the whole continent that they conquered.
Nope,
so they weren't
only
talking
the northern part.
So they weren't talking about all the inhabitants of that continent. They was talking about a small area, North Africa, Northwest Africa to be more specific, Tunisia and Algeria to be even more specific.
Yep.
So they were only changing the names of that area.
Bingo.
Not the whole continent. Not the whole continent. Now again, this is a source. This is not the only source. This is just one. So if there's some more information out there that proves otherwise, please bring it. Again, we want to get this right. We ain't trying to be right. So let's proceed. The name changing took place. Again, I said the name changing took place. That means they changed the name from another name. So the name changing took place after 3 Punic Wars between Rome, led by Publius Cornelius Scipio, with a name like that, I see why I say more, and the powerful Carthage. When the Romans finally captured Carthage, they called the land North Africa. I repeat, when the Romans finally captured Carthage, they called the land North Africa.
Why do you think the Huguenots knew that they can go to Africa? Hmm.
I'm gonna read this again because maybe I'm a little slow. When the Romans finally captured Carthage, they called the land North Africa. So who named Africa Africa? And what part of it did they name Africa? Okay. So, and Scipio changed his name to Publius Cornelius Scipio Africanus. So they changed the name to Africa. Then Publius, why was your mama name you Publius? Publius changed his last name to Africanus. So, people, I don't care what your ideology is. Could we please use the right names that our ancestors called them, and stop using the names that the colonizers called them, so we know where we're from really and know who we're dealing with?
That part.
That's all I'm asking. I'm not saying you wrong for claiming Africa. I'm saying that's not the name of the continent. That has never been the name of the continent.
Places on the continent. Name of 2 places on the continent.
That should be a hook for a song, right? So it goes on to read that the word Africa is derived from the Greek word aphyke, and it suggested that. It's not a fact. It suggested that the Greek word is derived from the Greek word aphyke. Another historian then came to a conclusion that Africa was derived from the Latin word Africa, which means hot or sunny. But it doesn't matter why they came across the name. What matters is that that's not the original name. How about that?
And they're telling you, and it's in their writings, that they changed the name. Why do you think nobody from that continent calls it Africa? Because that's not its name.
If that's right, David.
I got two younger sisters. My 2 baby sisters are half American Indian and half Somalian. So I can tell you for a fact, the people on that landmass do not call it Africa. They identify themselves by the area that they come from. They don't claim the whole continent. If you're Somalian, you claim Somalia. If you're Nigerian, you claim Nigeria. I mean, there's 54 different countries on that landmass. They'll tell you states to try to fool you, but in reality, they're all independent countries.
And, before we, I'm saying this tongue in cheek, so please don't take this personal. Before we became aware, awoke, before we became conscious, someone that asks you where you from, let's say you went overseas, or even in the military, because we have different accents. People go, where you from? Don't nobody say America. They tell you where you from, what state you from. No one says I'm American, especially in America. Where you from? I'm from Virginia. Where specific? You get specific with the location. So we do the same thing over here, so it's not something that's foreign. So what was the original name of Africa? Africa is said to be known initially as Akibalan. The word Akibalan is said to mean mother of mankind, or a kind of man.
Got a name before that, though. They had a name before that.
So
Crenshaw Mafia.
I love this shit. Y'all the bomb. So it says the word Akibalan is said to mean mother of mankind, or a kind of man. That's I inserted that. Or Garden of Eden. It should be noted that before the word Akibalan was replaced by the word Africa. Okay, I'm gonna repeat this. I'm gonna restate this. Before the word Akibalan was replaced by the word Africa. I'm gonna say it one more time. Before the word Akibalan was replaced by the word Africa, Akibalan was called many names. It was called many names. So before it was called Akibalan, it was called something else. Y'all ready?
Let's do it.
Libya was one of the names the
Bingo.
continent was called.
That's one.
Corfu is one of the names
That's
it was
two.
called. Ortygia was one of the names it was called.
That's three.
And Ethiopia.
That's four.
And here's a nail in the coffin. With Africa being the last. That's the most recent
that's
name.
five.
It says it's the oldest name that has indigenous African origins and was used by Moors, the Nubians, the Numidians, and the people of Carthage, of Carthaginian Empire, Carthaginians, and finally the people of Ethiopia. And they're talking about those four words, not Africa. Do not insert narrative here. And it further goes on to support. It says in the late 17th century, the name Africa is said to have been new name given to Alkebulan because the Europeans during their explorations preferred Latin terms to others. Stop. Let's do this.
Northeastern, the African language was created by the Huguenots when they left France and went down to West Africa. That's who created the African language.
So it says in the late 17th century, that's like 1670, 1680, 1690, right? When Africans were supposed to have already been over in America, right?
Yep.
And according to, depending on who you talk to, according to whoever you talk to that believes in that theory, transatlantic slave theory, there were Africans before the 1600s. That's their theory, not mine. I have no legs. I ain't got a dog in that fight. In the late 17th century, the name Africa is said to have been the new name given to Alkebulan, because the Europeans during their explorations preferred Latin terms to others. So if that was a new name in the late 1700s,
Late.
what was it called before then? Alkebulan, and then Ethiopia, Libya, Ortygia, and what was the other one?
Ethiopia.
Corfu.
We know it's four names before it became Africa. We know that much.
So here's my question. Again, and this goes for this shots is for anybody not using the name of your original people. I don't care who it is. You could be American Indian. I don't care. Why would you use a name that somebody gave you other than your mother? And they claim that you down with your family. And then when they ask you why you don't, then you start pointing to scientists and archaeologists and all these other people who tell you that's not the original name. And then you go battle other people using the wrong name and talk to them about them using the wrong name. Really? Is this what we doing? Okay. Maybe somebody can answer that
Banging
question.
over pet names
That your master gave you. My tribe is Issa from Itza. Disprove that. Most of the names given to Africa, including Africa, were however used to refer to only a small part of Africa. What does small mean? What does small mean?
Small, not large, not even medium.
Like not even most, right? Not even half? Like less than a third?
Not even half.
Minute?
Not even a third.
Minuscule?
Not even a quarter. Not even a quarter is small.
Okay, just checking.
Smaller than that.
Okay. So that's that. So here's a part
that balloon just been popped.
Here's what I wanted to also go back to. Although historians have come to the conclusion the word Africa was first used to refer to Northern Africa, and then 2,000 years later to refer to the whole continent. 2,000.
Not one, but 2,000.
2,000. So here's the funny part. Well, here's the funny part. It was called North Africa, right? And then 2,000 years later, it was referred. The whole world referred to the whole portion of it was referred to Africa. But hold on, I'm gonna scroll up. See, this is why reading is important. What does that say? It says, although historians have come to the conclusion that the word Africa was first used to refer to northern Africa, and then 2,000 years later to refer to the whole continent, the origins of the word Africa is still in debate, right? That's what that reads, right?
Yep.
So where are we at? Oh. What does it say? In the late 17th century, the name Africa is said to have been the new name given to Akibalan. Pamela Hall wants me to turn the background music down some. All right, Pamela, hold on. Ah!
And ain't this the Encyclopedia Britannica?
Mm.
Say what?
So in the late 17th century, the name Africa is said to have been the new name given to Akibalan because the Europeans during their exploration. So if that's the case, what's 2,000 plus 1,600? Okay, let's do this. What's 2,000 minus 1,700? What's
300 years.
300, right? So you're talking about 300.
Yep.
That can't be true. Or can it? When did the Romans conquer Africa? Or when did the Romans conquer Maghreb? We'll get back to that. Keep sticking a pin in that because I want to make sure they're right with these timelines. Stick a pin in that. So it says the late 17th century, the name Africa is said to have been a new name given. So that means in 1600s, that means in 1492, that place wasn't called Africa. That means in 1524, that name wasn't called Africa. That means in 1605, that name wasn't called Africa.
Correct.
So how can you have African slaves in somewhere where there weren't any Africans?
Bingo.
And even when it was called Africa, that's not what those people were called.
Double balloon pop.
So, I don't know, y'all. That's just my mini rant.
I mean, it sounds like somebody's narrative is being deflated rapidly. I'm just saying.
So where we at? I mean, does any of this make sense to anybody?
Perfect sense over here. We got to stop being afraid to see the world. We got to stop being afraid to talk to people. We got to stop being afraid to learn world history because our story is tied into world history.
Joe 47 says TMH gonna put his own self in the back of the class. Sometimes I got to.
If you don't do the research, how would you ever know this term Moors that a lot of our people are calling themselves is a term from another land that has a totally different meaning than what they try to tell you? Why do everybody try to tell you Moor means dark skin? No, Morano does. And that's later on down the line. Them trying to make all the Moors dark skinned is another ploy to remove you off your land. Don't fall for it, relatives.
And your land could be any land, and not just this land. Wherever your land is, because think about it, the story, the people change, the names change, but the story remains the same. They rename you first, then they remove you. This is a global musical chairs, as Free was saying earlier. This is all it is a global musical chairs.
Moors is just a derogatory term over there for the original Berbers of Maghreb, later on Arabs, then after that, European Muslims. It's a derogatory term that anybody who fit that description, that's what they identified you as. Our ancestors got identified as Moors, not because of their skin color, because of the clothing and their lifestyle and their construction. They were similar. And that was the closest thing that these Europeans could relate it to. So you can't use the definition of Moors, the American definition of Moors, when you come to find out it was a term that was used 1,000 years before over on that landmass. So you have to go over there and find out what is the meaning of the word on that landmass.
Because that's where it came from.
We can't use English all the time. We can't use English definitions. We know English is something like. We know English and Spanish is made up of multiple languages to make one. It's the language of commerce. So you can't use that when you're dealing with a group of people on their land. Find out what their definition for the word is. That's like a foreigner coming to your hood trying to find out what sway means. He can't use his definition of sway on your landmass. He has to use the definition that you use.
Right, because it's your language. It's your area.
And how can you tell somebody else what a word means in their language when they're telling you what it means in their language?
That's the funny part. No, that's not what it means. How are you gonna tell me what something means and it's come from our people? I wish somebody would tell me about the East and they can't speak too low. Better go somewhere.
Why do you think they say Moor-ish? We all know ish means something like. The reason why they identify them as Moor-ish, because there's something like the Muslims that they seen over there in the place that they call North Africa. Remember, Moor-ish, something like the Moors. Oh, not to mention, you can also study the Vikings' history, because the Vikings came down from the north and fought the Moors in the Iberian Peninsula. It's another history tidbit for you. Vikings versus the Moors.
You can look it up. It's easy to do. Matter of fact, let me do this.
To the point, the Moors whooped the Vikings so bad, turned them into cheese makers.
Mm-hmm.
Facts, Lady J. And that's why the reason why we do this, a lot of people be like, well, why y'all over in Europe and Iberian Peninsula and we American? Because by showing this history, by showing what they did, you can see that they took the same thing they did on their landmass and they're doing it to us. Come in, rename your neighborhood, rename your streets. What they said, went to sleep in Florida, woke up in New Orleans? Come on now, let's stop playing. It ain't rocket science.
And we're not here to bang on Moors. We're not here to call anybody out of their name. We're asking you, why are you calling yourself out of your name? That's the question. Why are you not calling yourself what your mama called you? That's all we're asking you. Mama called him Clay, I'ma call him Clay. Your mama called you something other than Moors, but you still calling yourself Moors. I don't get it. And I'm not telling you who your mama is, so please don't change the narrative. Whoever you claim that you came from, go there, find out what they call themselves, and use that. That's all I'm saying. I mean, that just makes sense to me. So.
Oh, go ahead, teammate.
No, go ahead. You good, got it.
And as we dig deeper, the relatives will start to see why they try to keep North Africa a secret, why they keep changing the story of North Africa, what these Berbers were and who they look like. And when you realize that these Berbers came from darkest of dark to the lightest of light. Yes, the darkest of dark to the lightest of light. So light that you have North African Berbers who have been there their whole life with blonde hair, blue eyes, and blonde beards.
Hold on, stop. So you telling me, mean to tell me the cradle of civilization, Mama Africa, yeah, Mama Ethiopia, because that's what I'm gonna call her. Her mama call her Ethiopia, I'm gonna call her Ethiopia. So Mama Ethiopia has blonde hair and blue-eyed peoples?
Yes, blonde hair, blue eye, and blonde beards. Look up the Kabali. They still there. They're part of the Ottoman Empire. They have always been there. That's why they keep North Africa a secret. Why do you think the people of that area can identify as white? But don't worry, we're going to break down the Kabali as well. We're going to get to all of this, bring it all to the forefront.
Mama call it Ethiopia, I'ma call it Ethiopia. I ain't Roman. I ain't from that family nor that dynasty. So, Ethiopia it is. How we do it, Bones? The continent formerly known as Africa. Ethiopia, aka Africa, aka Akibalan, aka Libya, aka Corfu. Come on, man. So I'm gonna read some more. Portugal is what? Port of Galle. The Port of Galle, which is basically the port of France, which are your Spanish-speaking French or your Dutch, may refer to the supernatural beings known as enchanted moro, where Moor implies alien and non-Christian. These beings were siren-like fairies with golden or reddish hair and fair face. Wait a minute, what?
Talking about them Berbers.
They were believed to have magical properties. From this root word, the name Moor is applied to unbaptized children, meaning not Christian. In Basque, Mario means Moor and also refers to the mythical people. Hold on. Stop.
Keep it rolling. Run it back.
Hold on. Stop. Stop. Told you gonna need some new brakes. Gonna have to go to Meineke. It says that in Portugal, moro may refer to the supernatural beings known as enchanted moro, where Moor implies, this is an implication, alien and non-Christian. These beings were siren-like fairies with golden or reddish hair and a fair face.
Kabali.
They were believed to have magical properties. You are comparing these Moors to unicorns.
Kabali.
Man, come on, man. Stop it. From this root, the name Moor is implied to unbaptized children, meaning not Christian. Basque mero means Moor and also refers to mythical people. Moors can be considered like fairies and unicorns and leprechauns. Come on, man.
To tie it in a sense, these Moors, your Kabali, you know them today as gypsies.
Hold up. You just can't say that and then just drop that and just leave it.
So-called mystical people who wander, tell you fortunes. Blondish, red hair, fair skin. Can I get a gypsy?
David Corey says Kardashian. Ooh. Wow.
Yes, Macadon Wonder Maji. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Caribbean. I'm not running over any Moor-ish people. We are merely and only giving another perspective. And I'll ask a question. Why are you not using the name your mama gave you? And I'm not telling you who your mama is. I don't know who your mama is. I didn't do your genealogy, so I can't tell you who your mama is. I can't tell you who you're from. But if you're claiming to be from these people did not call themselves Moors. So why are you using the term that the colonizer gave your peoples and not the name they mama gave them? I'll wait.
Think about it. Think about it.
Because if you talk to tribes, whether they're houses in Africa or you talk to tribes in Southeast America, they know the names of their people. They know the original names that they call themselves. And those are names they go by, and they don't let nobody else call them that. Go on Atlanta and call them something you ain't got no business calling them. If you want to, you might be calling an ambulance. Or as we say in my neck of the woods, ambulance.
Pick up.
So these are questions we need to be asking people. And again, we don't have to ask them and be derogatory about it. It's like, why do you use that term? Why do you use a term that a colonizer called you? Why not use a term that your mama called you? And I'm not saying I know who your mama is. I don't know where your ancestry comes from. So I can't tell you what they called you, but I can tell you what the colonizer called you. And that's the name you use.
Bingo.
That much I can tell you. That's public information. All day, every day. And that goes for anybody. I don't care what title you claim it. I don't care what genealogy you're using to determine who you are. Why are you not calling yourselves what your people called you? And if you haven't found it, that's fine. But stop identifying with these colonizers' names, these French names, these German names. Why are you doing that? I'm Cherokee. Says who? I'm Choctaw. I'm Iroquois. I'm Iroquois. Come on, says who?
The French are Frank.
Joe 47 says we're gonna need a new cab. Let somebody besides CMH try. Please let somebody else try. Please.
Blame no sellout being up under the weather today. Blame no sellout being up under the weather. Hopefully he feels better tomorrow rising.
Yeah, you know he one of them people that know a lot about health, so he'll be back in no time flat. So if he's sick, if he's under the weather, he's really under the weather. Something really got a hold of him. So yeah. Yeah, Free, you're right. Unless that's really your people. If you French, then yeah, great. Use those words. If that's who you are, then that's great. I have no issue with that. But my question is, why are you not using the names of your people? What's the problem? And I'm not here to tell you who your people is. That's for you to find out. But please stop using.
I can't tell you. We can only show you what resources that you can use to help find yourself. But we can't tell you who you are. That's up to each individual.
Yeah, but we will tell you what the colonizers are calling you. Don't get mad at me, get mad at the colonizers. I'm not saying you a mythical creature.
That's from French. Go holler at them about that.
I'm not saying the Frosty Lucky Charms, the unicorn, and Rainbow Bright your cousin. They are.
Purple hearts and horseshoes and this and that. No, bro. We ain't rocking that over here.
So don't get mad at me. Get mad at the colonizer. They gave y'all that names, and those are names y'all rocking and y'all willing to die for and all this other crazy mess. Yeah, you better find out what your mama called you. Stop playing. Big Hawk says, sounds like Super Saiyans to me. I'm going to start calling Goku and more.
Kame. Let me stop.
Kame. Oh, never mind. LJ Free says, magical waffles and ish. Ooh. Grown folks.
Sprinkle me, man. Sprinkle me.
Grown folks, man. I'm just saying, can we just do this right? That's all, man. Just do it right. It says Muslims located in South Asia were distinguished by the Portuguese historians in two groups. Okay, again. Muslims located in South Asia were distinguished by the Portuguese. So who distinguished these Muslims? The Portuguese.
The Portugal.
The Portuguese distinguished these people into two groups. Moros da Terra, Moors of the land, and Moros da Arabia, Moros de Mecca, and Moors from Arabia and Mecca, or Paradisi Muslims. The Moros da Terra were either descendants of any native convert, mostly from any of the former lower and untouchable castes, to Islam, or descendants of a marriage alliance between the Middle Eastern individual and an Indian woman. Within the context of Portuguese colonization in Sri Lanka, Muslims of Arab origin are called Ceylon Moors. Not to be confused with Indian Moors. They are naming these people.
Uh-huh.
The
What's a Moor again?
Portuguese call these people Moors. Why are you rocking that title? Again, why are people calling themselves Cherokee? Why are people calling themselves Sioux? That's what the French called you. You never called yourself Sioux. What did your tribe call themselves? Call yourselves that. You're not Sioux. Come on now. Let's get this right. Letting the colonizers call you something, and then you're going to bang on somebody for calling themselves something the colonizers called them. Remember what we always talk about. Clean your own house first. You got a mountain full of trash in your kitchen. You gonna come in my kitchen and point out a piece of paper that you put down there. Yeah, you better go on somewhere.
You don't pick that up?
So it says the Ceylon Moors, unlike the Indian Moors, are descendants of Arab traders who settled there in the mid-6th century. When the Portuguese arrived in the early 6th century, they labeled all of the Muslims in their land as Moors. Again, Portuguese named these people this, as they saw some of them resembling the Moors in North Africa. These people are Moor-ish. They look like the Moors in South Africa, so we're gonna call them Moors. Not what they call themselves, because they look like people from North Africa, the Maghrebs in North Africa. So these people in these people in Sri Lanka, because they look like the Maghrebs in North Africa, are being called Moors.
They're Moors now.
Come on, man. Come on, man. This is crazy. Grand Rising, two witnesses.
Peace.
Pamela Hall said peace too. And if you read it indigenously, that's two piece, man. Better leave two witnesses alone. You catch a two piece. I'm just saying. I digress. Moving on.
And they ain't talking chicken.
Then it goes on to read, the Sri Lankan government continues to identify the Muslims in Sri Lanka as Sri Lankan Moors, self-categorized into Ceylon and Indian Moors. It's the government that's naming these people. Are y'all understanding this? These people didn't call themselves
see what's going on around you.
These people didn't call themselves Moors. The government's calling these people Moors. That's how the government is labeling, just like we're labeled through the census. Hello?
Who called you African American? Your government. Who called you black? Your government. Who called you Negro? Your government. Who called you colored? Your government. Sounds the same, huh?
So you go from a continent that called you something to another continent that called you something else. But because it's another continent, it's not America, it's okay? Man, go sit your tail down somewhere.
No, we ain't playing that. No.
Then they have the Gone, they have the Gone Muslims, a minority community who follow Islam in Western India coastal state of Goa, are commonly referred to as Moor-ish. By Goan Catholics and Hindus, Moor-ish is derived from the Portuguese word moro, Moor. So they're calling these people Moors too. Then you got the Roman Moors. Then you got the Moors of Maghreb. Who's naming these people Moors? They mama not. So why are you using the word Moor again? Just wondering. Why are we using the word Cherokee again? Go ahead, Bounce.
That's what the French called you.
So the French your daddy? Are the Portuguese your daddy?
Almost said something on L.
Remember, this is a kiddie station.
That's why I just laughed it off.
The children are listening. Bones.
Well, I'm gonna do it like a episode of Maurus. Not my daddy.
So you gonna let your adoptive father name you? Forget what your mama called you. So your pappy called you Mo. So you gonna be a Mo. The French told us to. Exactly. Come on, man. Gotta get this right. In Arabia Roman Museum in South Shields, there is a tomb set up by one vicar who describes himself as being by nation a Moor. He was a freedman of Numerius, a cavalryman. He self-identified himself as a Moor.
That term freedman being used way over on another landmass.
So yeah, I'm gonna share my screen so y'all can see this so y'all don't think I'm creating narratives.
And isn't this at the same time that these people are coming over, having contact with our ancestors? So if everybody else they're coming in contact with that's dressed a particular way, that lives a particular lifestyle, they identifying them as Moors, how do you think it happened here?
Well, that's because...
How does a word that comes from the Middle East, so-called Middle East, is a term that's placed on you in the Americas?
Something to think about. He was a freedman of Numerius, a cavalryman, but he called himself by nation a Moor. Maurus. So he took a French word, a Portuguese word that him daddy gave him, and he made himself a nation. So forget what his mama called him. He gonna take the name that daddy gave him. Y'all are funny to me. Clean your own house before you start cleaning somebody else's. That's all I got to say about that. The late 7th and 8th centuries CE, the Islamic Umayyad Caliphate, established after the death of Muhammad, underwent a period of rapid growth. In 647 CE, 40,000 Arabs forced the Byzantine governor of North Africa to submit and pay tribute, but failed to permanently occupy the region. After an interlude during which the Muslims fought a civil war, the invasion resumed in 665, seizing Byzantine North Africa, aka Maghreb, up to Bougia. Is that where the word bougie comes from? Just playing. Over the course of a series of campaigns lasting until 689, the Byzantine counterattack largely expelled the Arabs but left the region vulnerable. Intermittent war over the inland provinces of North Africa, aka Maghreb, continued for the next 2 decades. Further civil war delayed the continuation. Further civil war delayed the continuation of further conquests, but an Arab assault took Carthage and held it against a Byzantine counterattack. Although a Christian and pagan Berber rebellion pushed out the Arabs temporarily, the Romanized urban population preferred the Arabs to the Berbers and welcomed a renewed and final conquest that left northern Africa, aka Maghreb, in Muslim hands by 698. Okay, so that makes sense. So they did change the name in the early 700s. So you figure 2,000 years later, that would put you around. Yeah, okay, that makes sense. That's close. It's close. Not accurate, but we'll give them that. Over the next decades, the Berber and the urban population of northern Africa gradually converted to Islam. Although for separate reasons, the Arabic language also adapted. Initially, the Arabs required only vassalage from the local inhabitants rather than assimilation, a process which took a considerable time. The groups that inhabited the Maghreb, following the process, became known collectively as Moors. Say it again. The groups that inhabited the Maghreb, following this process, became known collectively. They became known collectively by who?
The Portugal.
Who called them Moors? Because they were calling themselves Maghreb. If they were calling themselves Maghreb, they might almost call themselves Maghreb. Who called them Moors? I'll wait.
What do you call that?
It say they became collectively known. They did not say they collectively self-identified as that.
No.
So I guess a more important question would be, Hugh called them Moors. Was it Hugh? It wasn't Hugh, was it? Could it have been Hugh? I don't know. Although the Berbers would later expel the Arabs from Maghreb and form temporarily independent states, the effort failed to dislodge the usage of the collective term. Who called them Moors? They didn't call themselves Moors. Can somebody please tell me? Can somebody that's a Moor please tell me who called them Moors? Who called Cherokees Cherokee? Who calls Iroquois Iroquois? They call themselves how do I see? But people that want to call themselves Iroquois call themselves Iroquois. That makes no sense to me.
Get them on the line right now. Get them on the phone.
Your tribe called themselves one thing, but you gonna call yourself something that your daddy called you, and that ain't even your real daddy? Your mama call you something else, but you gonna go by what your fake daddy say? But then you gonna scream white supremacy? White power! Whose side you on? That's a question I need to ask. Go on. Make yourself your own orphan, and you gonna take on somebody else's name, and then get mad at somebody else because they ain't using the right name either. Ain't nobody using the right name. That's what we doing this for, so we can find out who we are. Jiminy, Christmas. LJ Free says there's another question. Who called them that? Add that to who told you, which one were built in, and also a probing questions.
You know it. Get to the bottom of it.
Moors in Iberia. Where's
Listen up,
Iberia?
relative.
Where's Iberia?
Because at this time, Arabs and Moors are two different sets of people at this time. Pay attention.
Did you hear that? Arabs and Moors are two different sets of people. So who's gonna start calling the Arabs Moors? Who? Who that? Who that gonna start calling the Moors? Who that? Who that? And then if you're a Cincinnati Bengals fan, who they? Who they say they're gonna call them Moors? Anyway. In 711, the Islamic Arabs and the Moors of Berber descent in northern Africa crossed the Strait of Gibraltar onto the Iberian Peninsula, and in a series of raids, they conquered the Visigoth Christians, Hispania. Their general Tariq ibn Ziyad brought most of Iberia under Islamic rule in an 8-year campaign. They continued northeast across the Pyrenees Mountains, but were defeated by the Franks. Uh-oh. Who that is?
Knocking at the door.
Who that knocking at the door? Come on in. All right, let me go back to reading. Toasty. They continued northeast across the Pyrenees Mountains, but were defeated by the Franks under Charles Martel in the Battle of Tours. Who are the Franks?
German, the Portuguese, the Spaniards,
the Gauls,
Europeans.
the Gauls. Okay. No, still I said ish, me, Mickey. He's Mickey-ish. Exactly, two witnesses. I'm gonna start calling you two-piece.
Yeah, 1, 2.
What's up?
Hello.
What up? What it do? How you feel? You good?
You feeling a little better? Peace, everybody.
Okay.
Peace to the chat. Peace to the panel. What's going on here?
Alright. So it says that General Tariq ibn Ziyad brought most of Iberia under Islamic rule in the 8-year campaign. They conquered northeast across the Pyrenees Mountains, who were defeated by the Franks under Charles Martel in the Battle of the Tours in 732. The Maghreb fell into a civil war in 739 that lasted until 743, known as the Berber Revolt. The Berbers revolted against the Umayyads, putting an end to the eastern domain over the Maghreb. Despite racial tensions, Arabs and Berbers intermarried frequently. Stop. Despite racial tension, Arabs and Berbers intermarried frequently. So the Berbers are the people of Maghreb, right?
Yep. Blonde hair, blue eyes, some of them.
And they married the Arabs. A few years later, the eastern branch of the Umayyad dynasty was dethroned by the Abbasids, and the Umayyad Caliphate overthrown in the Abbasid revolution, 746 to 750. Abd el-Rahman the first, who was of Arab Berber lineage, get it right, managed to evade the Abbasids and flee to Maghreb and then Iberia. Where is Iberia? It's what is known today erroneously as Spain, where he founded the Emirate of Cordoba and the Andalusian branch of Umayyad dynasty. The Moors ruled northern Africa and Al-Andalus for several centuries thereafter. Ibn Hams, the polymath, mentions that many of the caliphs in the Umayyad Caliphate and the Caliphate of Cordoba were blind and had light eyes. Stop.
Bingo! I've been trying to tell them. All you got to do is go over there and visit. You'll see for yourself. Yep. And they'll tell you they have always been there. Their history tell you they have always been there.
I'm gonna read that one more again. Ibn Hams, the polymath, mentions that many, not a few, many of the caliphs in the Umayyad Caliphate and the Caliphate of Cordoba were blonde and had light eyes. Ibn Hams mentioned that he preferred blondes and notes that there was much interest in blondes in Al-Andalus amongst the rulers of the regular Muslims. Stop.
Yep. And to answer the question, at this time, Arabs and Berbers are two different sets of people. It's later on down the line, remember, they started considering Arabs Moors.
Sorry about that, I had to clear my throat.
No problem.
Woo. Oh man. Ibn Hams mentions that he preferred blondes and notes that there was much interest in blondes in Al-Andalus amongst the rules and regular Muslims. He preferred blondes. I guess now we know why blondes have more fun, right? All the caliphs of Buna Mawam, God have mercy on their souls, and especially the sons of Al-Nasir, were without variation or exception disposed by nature to prefer blondes. I have myself seen them, and known others who had been their forebears, from the days of Al-Nasir's region down to the present day. Every one of them has been fair-haired, taking after their mothers, so that this has become a heredity trait with them. All but Salman al-Zafir, God have mercy on him, whom I remember to have had black ringlets and a black beard. As for al-Nasir and al-Hakim al-Bustansir, may God be pleased with him, I have been informed by my late father, the vizier, as well as by others, that both of them were blonde and blue-eyed. The same is true of Hisham al-Muayyad, Muhammad al-Mahdi, and Abd al-Rahman al-Mutada. May God have mercy on them all. I saw them myself many times and had the honor of being received by them, and I remarked that they all had fair hair and blue eyes.
And what's the year of this again?
Bruh, hold on. 746 to 750.
So in the years of 746, you have recorded records of blonde hair, light eye, blonde bearded Berbers who later on, after mingling with Arabs, they started Moors.
Well. So that must have been, so you think about it, that had to be something that was of an anomaly, because they are preferring these people because they're not like them.
Yep. That when the Ottomans is no different than when you have Europeans coming here telling you of the first inhabitants that they seen in these areas. When the Ottomans got to them areas, they told you and reported the people that was there. To the point, if you look at the Kabali to this day, a lot of their leaders are blonde hair, light-eyed, blonde beards. Their skin can be light as light to dark as dark, but they have blonde hair, light eyes, and blonde beards. Some of it be reddish sometimes.
Hmm. Interesting. Very, very interesting. The languages spoken in the parts of the Iberian Peninsula under Muslim rule were Andalusian Arabic and Mozambique. They became extinct after the expulsion of Moriscos, but Arabic language influence on the Spanish language can still be found today. The Muslims were resisted in parts of the Iberian Peninsula in areas of the northwest, such as Asturias, where they were defeated at the Battle of Covadonga, and the largely based country in the Pyrenees. Though the number of Moorish colonists was small, many native Iberian inhabitants converted to Islam. By 1000, according to Ronald Siegel, some 5 million of Iberia's 7 million inhabitants, most of them descendants from the indigenous Iberian converts, were Muslim. They were also sub-Saharan Africans who had been absorbed into Al-Andalus to be used as soldiers and slaves. At this time, this was the term. You can't really call them sub-Saharan Africans because that's south. That's like south of North Africa. So they would have. So these basically would have been sub-Saharan Ethiopians. I'm saying
Yep.
we gonna keep it correct. These are not. There's no such thing as sub-Saharan Africans. They're sub-Saharan Ethiopians.
Nope. Yep.
I mean, we gonna call it like it is. I'm gonna call you what your mama call you. I don't care what your daddy call you.
Bingo.
Your fake adopted
Oh,
daddy.
to answer Pamela's hard question real quick. The reason why they say peace be unto them, because in Islam, any loved ones and anyone that passed by, we still pray for them. So anything they did in life that was wrong, they may be forgiven for by God. That's why they say it. Peace be upon them.
So, all right. Where we at? Oh yeah. So they were absorbed into Al-Andalus and be used as soldiers and slaves. The Berber and Sub-Saharan African Sub-Saharan Ethiopian soldiers were known as Tangerines because they were imported through Tangier. These people didn't call themselves Tangerines, but they were called Tangerines. Who called them Tangerines?
I wish you would call me a tangerine.
Again, you gotta look at who's telling the story. That's right. Iberia is what Spain eventually was called in 1502, which is nothing more than a transliteration of the word Hispaniola, which means Iberian Peninsula, because that's a Latin word. See, once you start going back to what things are supposed to mean, you start to really break certain spells. You start to understand how things are. You start to see who people really are. See, people can hide under titles, just like people can hide behind icons. But once you strip away the title and get to who they mama call them, you can't hide no more because everybody know who they are. And that's what most people are afraid of. They're afraid that you're going to find out what their mama called them. That's what they're afraid of. Because if they're not afraid, why would they try so hard not to use the name that their mama gave them? What are you scared of? But I digress. It says the Caliphate of Cordoba collapsed in 1031 and the Islamic territory in Iberia fell under the rule of Almohad Caliphate in 1153. The second stage was guided by a version of Islam that left behind the more tolerant practices of the past. Al-Andalus broke up into a number of taifas, fiefs, which were partly consolidated under the Caliphate of Cordoba. And we're going to stop right there. And let everybody recover from these haymakers that this information exposed.
We got a whole lot coming this week.
So, as Mama call him Thomas, I'm gonna call him TMH. Well, TMH stands for Thomas. So, see, I'm still going by what my mama called me. So hopefully this has been helpful. Hopefully this gives you a different perspective, another way of viewing the Moors, which were not Moors, which were your Berbers. The term Moor is a derogatory term. That's like going around and calling everybody that's got a hint of melanin the N-word. That's basically what you're doing.
Yep.
So, something to think about. So we're starting to put all this stuff together. Go ahead, Bones. My bad.
And as you can see, it had nothing to do with color of skin. It had to do more with your culture on how you got labeled this title, on how you dressed and what you did. If you were similar to the Muslims at the time, they threw that name on you. Whether you follow Islam or Christianity or Judaism, if you were similar to these sets of people, that's what you were called.
Use the name that your ancestors gave you. Use the name that your tribe gave you. Use the name that your house gave you. Use the name that your clan gave you. Don't get mad at me. I'm not calling you a Moor. I'm not saying that you some mythical creature that's equivalent to the Tooth Fairy. I didn't say that. Portuguese did. So take up any complaint you have with Portugal.
Oh, they ain't gonna do that. They rather bang on people that look like them because there's no consequences.
They ain't banging on them people. They scared of them people.
Then go into the people that did it. Go ask the person that labeled you this way. Go question the person that told you this is what you are. Question them. Ask them why.
So here on this show right here, we are no longer using the term of that continent. We're not no longer using that term Africa. That continent is called Ethiopia from henceforth. Now we will refer to it as a continent formerly known as Africa, aka Ethiopia, until everybody catch on. Got it?
You know it.
We're not calling that landmass known as Iberian Peninsula. It's not Spain. It's Iberian Peninsula.
Or Hispaniola. Hispaniola.
Which is nothing more than a Latin word that means Iberian Peninsula.
Almost had me speaking in Arabic on L.
So, don't get mad at me. Get mad at the people that called it that. And if we find out there was an older name than that, we're going to call it that. So if you say that you were Iroquois, I'm not calling you Iroquois. That's not what your people called you. You
I do not see.
That's what you were called. Stop using the name your fake stepdaddy called you. Use the name that your mama gave you. Again, I'm not telling you who your mom is. I don't know who your mom is. I don't know who your ancestors are. But whoever you claim they are, why not use the names that they use? I mean, if you really want to show respect, there's nothing more disrespectful than calling your mama out her name. Why is it we get mad when somebody call her mama out her name?
But we'll do it all day to our own mama and to our own grandmas and to our own great-great-great-great-grandmas. We'll call them all out their name, but get mad when somebody else do it. That's stupidity. Which one is more disrespectful? The stranger calling them out their name or the person who know who they are calling them out their name? I'll wait.
Michael Brown says, them in Africa said it wasn't called that either. Again, I'm not gonna argue with them people. They know what it was called. If somebody from Africa, the continent formerly known as Africa, aka Ethiopia, said we don't call it Ethiopia, why am I calling it Ethiopia? I mean, why am I calling it Africa? If it was never called that. That doesn't make sense to me. Who am I to tell somebody if that's where you came from? Who am I to mess up the name? That's like me going to Hawaii and it's called Licky Licky, and I go, it's like. Really? That's what we doing? So let's get back to the original names. Because once
and
you
remember
know,
when we started out.
Go ahead, Bones.
Remember when we started to build this rising, that on the census in 2019, North Africans are considered white. But do you understand why now? It's the home of your blonde hair, light eye Berbers. They don't want you to know that the people from Africa are light skinned and light eyes. They don't want you to know this. That's why they keep it separated. Show me what separates North Africa, well, so-called North Africa from so-called South Africa. What separates it?
And imagine a bunch of imaginary lines on a map created
If you
by.
go to that continent, go to the continent of Ethiopia. If you kept walking from north to south, I guarantee you're not gonna walk into that line that's on the map. I promise you that much.
So, again, let's clean up our own house before we start talking about somebody else's house about what they should be named. My question is, why aren't you calling yourself what your mama called you? And that's for anybody. I don't care what you claiming. If you claiming that you represent your ancestors and you respectful of your ancestors and your legacy, why are you not calling yourself what they call themselves? Because that's a slap in the face. If you think I'm lying, go call your mama outside her name and see what happened to you. If you think it's respectful to call your people outside of their name, I dare you to go do that to somebody in your family. Call them outside their name and see what happened. Call them a derogatory name and see what happened.
You'll wake up sometime in the future.
Because more is a derogatory term. Go
Shoot,
call
I'm not getting
somebody.
it next week.
Yeah, go call your mama some outside her name. Go call your mama a derogatory term and see what happened. But you being respectful. Come on, man, go sit down somewhere.
They're gonna beat you in a coma. Might be 2021 when you wake back up.
Miss the census. Dang.
LJ Frias said, is that who Hitler said was the Uberman? Because original Aryans did not have blonde hair and blue eyes, but the Cabal did. Ooh.
Yep. But who else came from out of the land in the area of these Kabbalah? Your shepherd Jews. Ooh.
Don't do that. Don't do that. That's not nice. That's not nice.
Research for further this week. Shepherd Jews.
That's not nice. Don't do that. That's not nice at all, sir. Really isn't. You're being mean now. So of
It's
course,
getting deep in here.
we will be bringing sources. We know we don't do opinions. We give you our view on the information that we see, which can be misinterpreted as an opinion. I can only read it like I see it. Then I'm gonna give you my slant on it, what I get out of it. That don't mean that it's right, but that's just my advantage and my viewpoint. That's why we post the source. That's why we put it in the chat. And that's why we say if you have anything that's contrary to what we say, hey man, just bring it to us. We cool.
Send us an email. Send us the link. We'll look over it and see what we find. No issue with that here. Like we said, the goal is to get it right, not be right.
So let's go ahead and let these good, great, phenomenal, awesome people get on with their day and do some phenomenal things with it. No sellout. What you got for the people before we head out?
Alrighty. Peace, everybody, for showing up today. Peace to the panel for showing up today. Links in the chat. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, and or corrections, or just to contact us in general about anything. Also, Bones, did you make any announcements about possibly,
No, I haven't. Oh, you can go ahead.
Okay, so if anybody has any kind of business ventures, business ideas, business plans, or anything to do with business, especially if it's involved in the community, please contact us at attentionassembly@gmail.com. Bones, what angle are we going to be using? With this?
Basically, we've been getting emails of people wanting to set up USDA businesses and HUD Section 3 businesses. So what we're going to try to do is probably on the weekends have like a 30-minute to an hour get together so the like-minded businessmen in the community, we can get together and start laying out these plans to start building our communities, to start accessing these grants so we can make a change for 7 generations forward. So anyone that's interested in this, just send us an email so we can get your contact information and we can set it up.
Facts, yeah. Any business women and men that want to get things rolling or have any ideas, like I said, even if it's just a discussion, just to bounce ideas, we're available for that too. We're at the same email address. So yeah, just contact us whenever you guys are ready to speak. Peace, y'all.
Awesome.
How you doing?
Pema said it was something you wanted me to do. I reach out but got nothing back. So still waiting for you to tell me. Yeah, Pamela, do me a favor, just hit me up in a forum and we'll go from there. Yeah, we'll get everything straightened out. Durant says I have 4 different business ideas I'm working on. I'm gonna reach out. That's what's up. At the end of the day, y'all, the goal is to share this information so we can help you find out who your people are. Help find out who your mama called you, what your ancestors called you. Again, I'm not concerned about who you claim to be. That's you. You have the right to self-identify to be a toaster if it make you happy, but get the name of the toaster right. That's all I'm saying. Don't be a Black and Decker toaster when you actually supposed to be a GE toaster. Get it right.
Mm-hmm.
That's all we're trying to do. Because once you know who you are and you know who everybody else around you are, you know who you're supposed to be around and who you're not supposed to be around, and most importantly, why you're not supposed to be around them. Because what you'll find is that there are people that are in your chat, that are on your YouTube channel, that have no interest, and you find out who you are. They are actually the gatekeepers from you being who you are. And there's some of the people that are the most vocal in the chats. They don't want you to find out who you are. Because if you do, you'll find out who they are. And then they're in trouble. It'll make more sense as we start cracking these codes. So with that,
Indigenous American Leo, you need help building a website, hit us up. Like I said, that's anyone who need help with hosting a website, putting it together, hit us up. That's what we're here for.
That's facts. I probably should have mentioned that too. It's literally a one-stop shop, y'all. Just hit us up, man. Any questions? Because even if we can't help you with it, we'll point you in the right direction.
Yeah, so.
Sorry about that to you, mate.
Nah, you good. You good. It's all about doing your genealogy, your family tree, find out who you are. Because I'm telling you, once I started really digging into how our tribes split up, why our tribes split up, why there are certain tribes that are designated the official gatekeepers, why some of our tribal members are not getting their identification cards from certain tribes, it all makes sense. It all makes sense. And once you find out who you are, it'll make sense to you too. So just know, everybody that look like you and the ones that are most vocal, that claim they with you, and then y'all all a tribe together, they ain't. I promise you. So with that, I'm gonna let Bones H. McCoy, you got the mic, and take us up out of here, bro.
Sorry about that. I had a call real quick. Oh, you was finished, CMH? I couldn't catch the end of it. Somebody called me.
Yeah, you good, bro. Go ahead and take us out. Good.
All right. Well, on that note, like we always say, the information that we bring forward is not to bang or bash or embarrass anyone. It's so we can all get this right and know the parts that we play in this story. And again, Autonomous Assembly was built for the people. The resources that A2 go out and research to find is for the people. But if we don't activate and start uniting to apply this, then it does no one any good. So again, if there's questions that you have on accessing USDA programs, HUD Section 3 businesses, you have your own business and need website, you need hosting, contact us. We are here for our communities. We do not get up every rising for a YouTube stream. The YouTube is the outlet for A2. The real work is when we unite, use these programs, rebuild our communities, build new communities for the next seven generations. So on that note, let's all do our due diligence. Let's all carry a little bit more. Let's all reach out to tap our brothers and sisters on the shoulder just to give them the information. Don't impose anything on no one. You can't force no one to do or be anything. Our only responsibility is to bring the truthful information so it can be known. So people now have a choice. You never know what's BS if you don't have anything to compare it to. Again, you'll never know what's BS if you don't have anything to compare it to. Let's be that generation that gives our relatives something to compare it to. And on that note, it's always fun when we get together and kick it with the relatives. I promise you, there's no other place we'd rather be in the rising. Everyone, please have a very, very blissful day. Take time out to do your genealogy. Take time out to help someone else with their genealogy. And until tomorrow's show, peace.
Peace, y'all.
Warning, warning, warning. Hard hats, pickaxe, shovels, boots, required.